is this, yeah,
What is it?
I think this one.
Oh, is the camera?
Yeah, it's at the back. The one is at
Oh,
the
is this a
back.
camera? Po, like you're saying po. Yeah.
Hmm? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Good Good morning, Namibia, and welcome to this Friday special edition at the Government Information Center. The special edition will focus on the preparedness and resumption of schools for the second and final semester of the 2022 academic year. I am your host, Joanna Otoni, and as per the norm, we are joined by stakeholders from the fraternity that will help us deliberate on the topic of discussion. From my far left, I am joined by Mr. Gerard Vries. He is the Deputy Executive Director for Lifelong Learning, Arts and Culture in the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We are also joined by Ms. Paul Luvinda. She is a learner at Concordia College. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Miss.
We are also joined by Mr. Paulus Nikembra. He is the Commerce Regional Education Director. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Joanna. Good morning, Namibia.
Last but not least, we are joined by Ms. Mary Wanguta. She is the school principal at the Concordia College. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Namibia, for those of you that are joining us, thank you. We are going to kick right straight into our discussion. We do not have the COVID-19 update at this hour because it is a special edition. I would want to start with you, Mr. Vries. How is the calendar formulated to ensure teaching and learning in this second semester?
We specifically adjust the national calendar to have 2 semesters for the year and a longer May-June holiday so that we, on average, match it with the winter so that we deconcentrate the schools and avoid having too many learners congregating and be present that would give COVID or any ailments an opportunity to propagate. In our experience this year, that was a sensible decision to adjust the calendar because we drastically reduced the spread of COVID-19 because we made some very valuable lessons in the previous 2 years where this has taught us the way the calendar is structured affects also our interventions. Now, the second semester is an opportunity for us all to put our shoulders to the wheel so that learners and teachers bring their best possible effort to make this semester most productive and beneficial because we are heading eventually to the national examinations again.
All right. Mr. Nikembra, could you kindly highlight the key changes from this 3 to the second semester? What is the key changes, or what are the key changes?
Thank you very much. I think it's the change from 3 trimester to 2 semesters. So now you only have 2 semesters in a year. That simply means you only have 1 assessment in the year and then 1 assessment at the end of the year. So that simply means for the first and second term, if you compare it to the previous 3 trimesters, you now have longer teaching time. Simply because you now have your learners from January up to May, June. So that gives enough or ample time for teaching and quality learning.
Okay.
So the learners will be able to grasp because they are, for the most of the time, with their teachers and with their peers. So as compared to the trimester system, where you have 3 breaks in a year.
All right.
So in terms of the duration, you now moved from 3 to 2. However, in terms of assessment, you still have the same number of topic assessments per subject. However, in terms of your end of term tests, you now only have 2 assessments in a year. So basically, those are the changes that we have from the 3 to the 2 calendar semester of a year.
All right.
Thank you.
That is well put. Coming back to you, Mr. Fries, who would want to find out what are some of the developments from the ministry side when it comes to the new semester preparations, a special focus to maybe ablution facilities, classrooms, study materials, and basically your unhappy workforce.
We had learnings from the COVID-19 pandemic, and there was, during that period, released some special funds to construct ablution facilities throughout the country. These ablution facilities have been done in answer to what we have identified as shortcomings at our schools, community learning and development centers, and hostels, institutions where learners are congregating. We have aggressively rolled out this infrastructure, and it is in place at the moment. In addition to that, various classroom projects have been launched and completed in all 14 regions, where we made sure that classroom facilities are answering somehow to the learner-teacher ratio, and also the laboratory facilities that are presently under construction, and some have been completed. There was also a project that was launched through the Africa Development Bank funding, which is nearing completion, with some of the projects that will come to a close in December of 2022 and others in January of 2023. We have purposefully tried to shield the education sector with the infrastructure that was rolled out, because we anticipate that the COVID-19 pandemic will not be the last such occurrence, and we have to ready ourselves for any such eventualities in future.
All right. Namibia, if you are just joining us now, we are discussing the resumption and the preparedness of the Ministry of Education in actually accommodating their learners and teachers back at the school environment. We would want you to form part of the conversation later on later on in the hour, and the number to dial in the studio will be 061 400 397, or you can put your comments, questions, or concern on the social media platform where we are streaming this show live. Our Facebook handle is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. We're also on YouTube. We are at MICT Namibia. Moving to you, Mr. Ngikembwe, the Commerce region has the highest number of schools in Namibia. How ready is your region to welcome learners and teachers, and in the same vein, ensure effective teaching and learning?
Thank you very much. I think Commerce is not the biggest region in the country, but is one of the biggest regions in the country, of learner population around 100,225 learners. So that is quite a big number. You are correct to say is one of the biggest regions in the country. We are ready. We are ready despite the challenges of COVID-19, despite the challenges of shortage of classrooms and shortage of other teaching and learning resources. So we have been throughout the year, since January, preparing ourselves for the resumption, first in January and also now for the second semester. We have disbursed all the necessary teaching and learning materials to schools. We have distributed all the tools of trades to schools. We have given the education grants and also some funds for stationaries. And we are saying now for the second semester, really this is the time that we are welcoming all the teachers, all the principals, heads of departments, and the esteemed learners back to school. and all the non-teaching staff. This is the semester where we are now preparing for the end of the year examinations, both internal and external, because we are now for grade 11 and grade 12, you'll have your external assessment and certifications. So we are ready. We have been, during the school holiday, we conducted our holiday classes. It was very successful for the AS level, as well as some schools had their own initiatives. After our regional intervention, they also had some holiday classes, especially for grade 11, just to prepare and ready themselves for the last part of the academic year. So in the next week or two or so, we'll also have training for heads of department, newly appointed principals, as well as acting heads of department and acting school principals. So this is a component that we want to strengthen, because success at school level and in the education sector is really about leadership. And that is the tie that we want to strengthen. So we are all excited about the second semester, and we are ready to produce quality and good results for the commerce as well as for the entire country.
Perfect. Those are actually great initiatives there. Induction really assists a lot in one executing the expected mandate. Moving over to you, Ms. Luvida, how was your first semester's experience in the new calendar, and how was the support from your school?
Okay, so for the first semester, it was quite hectic because we were given a certain amount of topics that we had to cover, but because we had to rewrite, the semester for us was shortened, but we still had to finish the content that we were instructed to. So we were rushing through it, and as you know, rushing isn't really helpful, but again, given the circumstances, we do understand like why we had to rush through the content. But our teachers really did try their best to help us understand everything. Like for example, at our school, we extended the hours till 3:30, and we also had classes during the weekends. This really did help to finish the content that we were instructed to before the end of the term.
Okay, that is actually wonderful and good for your teachers. I hope it is applicable, or other teachers are doing the same for other learners in various government schools. I'm staying with you. How do you plan on keeping up with the momentum in the second semester to ensure that at least you get greater results at the end of the year?
Okay, so after writing the first term exams, I feel like all of us AS learners really did get a proper taste of what it is to be on AS, in terms of how like the questions are asked and all that, so we can take lessons from that and apply them to the next exams that we write. I also plan on working on things like time management and using all the resources available. When it comes to AS, you really do need to use everything that you've got, and you need to give it your all.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Fries, the teacher to learner ratio is a great concern, especially in the government schools setup. How are we handling this issue?
Well, the ministry has a recurring program of appointing and recruiting teachers through all the school phases to eventually get to a teacher-learner ratio that is within the prescribed norms of what we wish to achieve. The predicament we are facing is that the population growth outstrip the pace at which we can construct infrastructure. And there is some need to also answer to the population growth challenge that we are facing, so that eventually schools will achieve the learner-teacher ratios at primary school and secondary schools that makes it viable. The ministry keeps on recruiting and appointing teachers, and the movement of the freedom of movement that our Constitution guarantees somewhat impacts also the learner-teacher ratio because there is a challenge at predicting the movement to regions that are centers of growth because people are free to move. This is another impact on the learner-teacher ratios, but I can assure you that the administrative institutions like the Teaching Service Committee is meeting on a weekly basis to ensure that teachers are appointed, institutional staff are appointed, and schools are appropriately resourced with human capacity to ensure that we bring teaching and learning, quality teaching and learning to the community that we serve.
All right. Madam Principal, we haven't forgotten about you. So we want to find out if you have observed any anxiety or psychosocial stress due to changing semester, specifically at your school.
Well, I should say that we have, especially with the learners and teachers as well. It's not easy, you know, when there's a change, there are always challenges that we face in life, and it's not easy to adapt to new things. But, you know, with some of the learners, it wasn't easy because, you know, for us, especially at our school, apart from having a long semester, we also had to change the time frame when we were supposed to knock off. We were no longer knocking off at 1, we were knocking off at 3:30 in the afternoon every day. And this was applicable to all the kids in the school, not only the grade 11 and 12s and 9s that are preparing also for semi-national examinations, the grade 9s, and the grade 11 and 12 for national exams. But we thought it was necessary for all the grades, given the fact that, you know, due to COVID, when we locked down, we found later on when we started school that a lot of learners did not actually achieve the required basic competencies in the subjects that they were taught. So teachers were facing difficulties in catching up with the learners because, you know, if a child is coming from grade 8 going to grade 9 and yet they haven't achieved the basic competencies in grade 8, then it becomes a challenge. So we had to do this. It wasn't easy for the learners, and it wasn't easy as well for the teachers, but eventually we got used to it and we adapted. It helped where it was necessary. We actually received, especially from our team, from our school, we received a team from UNAM that was assigned to our school of student psychologists that were in their final year. And these people came to help our learners together with our life skills teachers, and a lot of counseling was done to the learners. And it was also open to our teachers, whoever wanted to see them as well. But mostly it was for the learners, and it really helped. And I was getting a lot of feedback also from the teachers with a lot of improvement. Because COVID somehow played with the mind of the learners because the lockdown had a lot of trauma on the kids. Some kids lost their parents, some lost their loved ones, immediate, people that they were living with, that were looking after them. And some, maybe it's friends also that were affected. In the end, there was a lot of anger that built up, a lot of stress, and some were even going through issues of depression. So it was really necessary that they got help, but I'm really grateful that we got help, and this is still going to continue until the end of the year in December.
Oh, perfect. I would want to find out, how did you go about getting the assistance from UNAM?
We are a model school, considered to be like a school that should model in terms of training teachers and training also, people from other professionals. So when UNAM need help in terms of their people to do internship, they usually refer their people to us. So we got help from UNAM because they then asked us if we are able to accommodate this group of psychologists that are in their final year because they needed to do internship. So we accepted them and we received them in our school.
Perfect. On a regional level, Mr. Nkemkwe, how was the psychosocial stress?
No, thank you very much. I think, as rightly said, everybody was anxious and still somehow anxious. But we are now moving towards a stage where we understand what COVID-19 is, how it spread, how we prevent it, and we are now recovering. So I think what I can highlight is that the effect might be different when you move to special schools. Now if you tie it in with the semester system, there's an indication that the students or the learners, they get so tired quickly that you need breaks in between. So they are not coping with the semester system. However, generally, our psychosocial support sections, which is the special education together with RACE, they are out on the field providing counseling, giving psychosocial support, also providing support to the life skills teachers, and also at the regional level, you also have some form of activities that at least would put your staff members at ease and to cope with the impact of COVID-19. So I think generally we are now into that stage of understanding how COVID-19 works, and I think we are coping.
Okay. That is actually great to note. Namibia, as we say, this is a public conversation and would want you guys to form part of the conversation by calling us up in the studio on 061 400 397, or you can put your comments, questions, concerns on our social media platforms where we are streaming this show live. Our handle on Facebook is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology - Republic of Namibia, whilst on YouTube we are at MICT Namibia. We also wait for your comments, questions, and concerns. We move on with the discussion. I would want to stick with you, Mr. Nkemkwe. What services are available to support especially the grade 11 and 12s in preparing for their final exams? And of course, I think the grade 9, their semi-national exams.
Thank you very much. I think I highlighted the activities that we have done during the holiday. That was one initiative to give enough time to the learners, because remember, over the past 2 years, we have lost a substantial amount of teaching and learning time that generally created a knowledge gap, if I may call it. However, now as a region, I said we are training the heads of departments and principals specifically to look into the issue of monitoring and controlling of teaching and learning activities, specifically with quality planning, assessment, and the likes. And now, if you have heard from the colleague, the school principal, who has indicated that some schools have decided to not knock off around 2, but moving towards 3 o'clock. So that is a welcome initiative from the side of the schools. So we'll also have now in August, we initially planned it from the 4th to the 6th of August, to have what we call performance dialogues with grade 11 schools, specifically those schools that are not really performing well, if we may call it that way. So we'll have a discussion, we'll have a dialogue to look into issues, how best can we improve results in the region and ultimately in the country. So those are some of the initiatives that we are looking into. We are also now going to have some meetings with regard to the administration of the national examination, because remember, for you to have quality results, it also, the administration of the examination is a very critical component. There were some issues last year, I think you remember, but now we are saying, how do we perfect our system so that we can have credible and valid national examinations as well as regional examinations. So at the regional level, we also have set up our own internal question papers for the primary level and junior secondary, so that we set a standard. and the learners on those different grades will have or will be exposed to the same level of questions. So those are some of the initiatives that we are looking at, and we are just encouraging the teachers through the school principals to use the little time that we have for quality teaching and learning. We don't have so much time. You realize if you now minus the mid-term break, immediately you will start with your oral assessment and so forth, because we are targeting early December, so the national examination should be completed. Okay. So you don't have much time. So I'm just urging that the schools, the teachers are punctual, they are prepared, and then they are present. Perfect. Because it's one thing to be prepared, but if you are not present, then it's also a problem. So we are looking forward to quality results, and we are, and I am a firm believer that you get the good results that you get during harsh conditions are sweeter than any other time. So I'm just imploring our teachers and principals and the community out there to utilize the time at our disposal so that we improve the quality of results at the end of the day.
Encouraging words. Madam Principal, from your immediate director, do you want to add anything onto that?
Yes, like when it comes to our school specifically, we have also already, last time before we knocked off, we wrote a letter to our parents that, I can't say the word unfortunately, maybe I should say fortunately, because this is to the benefit of the learners. The grades 11 and 12 have to continue with their afternoon classes, and also some of the teachers might require also to teach over the weekend. This is for us to also to be able to make sure that we complete the syllabus completely on time, because we want to have time for the learners and the teachers to prepare for the examinations, and we want to coach the learners on how to answer these questions. But we cannot do so if the syllabus is not completed. So as a result, we have already planned to do so, which is actually going to start already next week. We are starting with the afternoon classes with our learners at our school, because we don't have much time. If you look at it, as the director said, we only have until, and midterm break is from, it's around 3rd of October to 7th of October. So after that, immediately we start with our orals. So we want to make sure that before the midterm break, everything is done and covered. So we are going to try to push. It's not easy for our teachers. It's really hard work. And at the same time for the learners also, they have to really push. But you know, for me, I believe where there's a will, there's a way.
Perfect. Our AS learner, what advice can you give to your fellow learners?
So after the first exams, a lot of AS learners did not perform as well as they would have wanted to. It can have a negative effect on you, because when you're looking at those results, it makes you feel like you're a failure and so forth, but you need to remember that you made it to AS in the first place. You need to give yourself some credit for that, and those results do not reflect your intelligence and like your ability. So you should just push for the last semester as well. They should push and really just look at some of the mistakes that they made before and try to rectify those mistakes, and really just give it their all and believe in themselves, because confidence does go a long way.
Perfect. Mr. Fries, last year there was exam leakage, and this affected not only the release of the final results, but that of learners, and they already scarce government resources. With that in mind, are there certain precautionary measures to ensure history does not repeat itself?
Well, I'm aware that during the course of the previous week, there was elaborate meetings and retraining held by the Directorate of National Examinations and Assessment to strengthen the already in place protocols relating to the administration of national examinations and assessment. And during the course of this interview, have also learned about the Comas regional interventions to augment the training during the course of this second semester. This project is, of course, ongoing throughout the country, and we once again implore all stakeholders to conduct the national examinations in an ethical manner and with the pride that behoves the conduct of professional officials. So we are, of course, ensuring through the efforts that we are putting in place that inspections will be elevated throughout the regions and also from head office to visit examination centers unannounced and announced to quality check what is ongoing at these centers. This will be executed at public schools and at private tuition centers, and we will have zero tolerance of any unethical conduct that we detect. You must understand that national examinations are reflecting the nation's pride and its value it attaches to its qualifications that emanate from those national examinations. And it serves as a passport to the future that we will jealously protect with all the laws, rules, and regulations that we have at our disposal, and we will bring it to bear when unethical conduct is detected.
All right. We are nearing our end of our conversation, and I'd want you guys to give your final remarks, starting with you, Ms. Lubida.
So in closing, I would just like to tell my fellow AS learners that they should really look after their mental health. Stress is something that can have a negative impact on your performance as well, and it really has been a stressful year. So they should just check on their mental health. They should definitely take breaks and all that, and really just look after themselves. That definitely is something important if they do want to perform well at the end of the year.
Perfect. Ms. Wanguta, the final remarks, please. 10 seconds.
Okay, to the learners, I think, as Mpo said, I would like to say to them, you know, it's not easy to go through these changes that they have experienced this year, because it hasn't been experienced before in our country. But with them, it shows that, you know, the way they have pushed through the first semester, the type of effort and determination that they put in, it shows that they are able to do it at the end of the year. So they must just look after themselves holistically in terms of academic, and at the same time, health-wise, they must try also to just get involved in activities that will relieve the stress and find time to really, you know, plan their studies. And please stay away from social media, because it's not helping them. That is actually just stealing their time from the preparations that they have to do for the examinations. When it comes to our fellow colleagues in terms of like teaching, the teachers and the principals, I would like to say, if we're able to conquer the first term, we are still able to conquer the second term. It wasn't easy, but I know we are able to do it. So let's just push.
Perfect. Mr. Ngikamva, 10 seconds. Your final remarks, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to say the mandate before us is so immense, and it starts with giving access to education. So I just want to say, as my final remark, to say admission should be concluded from the school level, and we must ensure that we admit all that we can take in and submit all our projections and our preliminary admission to the regional office so that we can do proper planning for 2023. And secondly, just to highlight the issue of creating a safe and secure environment around schools that has to do with general cleanliness of the school. In and around the school, let us remove the grasses and so forth. We have already issued a directive in that regard so that we create that safe and secure environment. And we are really just saying let us work hard because hard work pays.
Perfect. Mr. Fries, your final remarks, please.
I would just like to add something that we probably omitted at the beginning. I have a substantive role, but I am standing in for the executive director of the ministry and acting for the period that she's on vacation leave. So now you understand why I'm here with a typical mandate for lifelong learning, arts and culture, talking to formal education and schools, but I'm standing in an acting capacity for the executive director, Ms. Sanet Steenkamp.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's good to note. Namibia, let us encourage, motivate, and be there for all our learners, but most importantly, the grade 11, 12 that are preparing for their external exams, and also our grade 9 learners that are preparing for their semi-external exams. To all education stewardship, I would like to leave you with the late Abraham Iyambo's favorite slogan, which is to please deliver, deliver, and deliver. Until then, have a good weekend and bye-bye.